Here we are in Sorkness. It's on the west side of Sorkness. It's a new addition for the Senior Design Lab. Here's the entrance. This door is locked at all times unless someone is in there. So students do have very limited access. Think safety first. They've got the eye protection requirements in a couple areas, my contact information if they need to get into the lab. Lock that. And when you come in, right off to the right side here is our safety glasses. And safety glasses are required inside the lab. And every student that comes in here is required to sign in when they come in and when they leave and what their purpose is for being in the lab. As we come around the room here, we've got some toolboxes that are personal for tools that we don't have at the college that I've furnished. Our fire extinguishers located right here, it's noted. It was last checked on March of 21, or May of 21, excuse me. And then we've got our eye wash station here, the hand wash sink with towels, dispenser, and soap. Our first aid kit here. Our flammable storage container for most of anything we have flammable in the lab. We've got our wash basin, so janitor sink, mop, brooms, wet floor sign here. And then we have this cabinet stores supplies such as extra towels, glues, cleaners, gloves, and extra safety glasses. As we come around here, we have our material safety data sheet here. And inside this file cabinet are all the manuals to the equipment we have in the lab. Over here we have I'm not a materials guy, I'm a machinist, so this is a tensile tester for the materials testing. We moved this into this lab for use, and then we come over here. We have 3 Kent lathes. They're not real big. They got like a 8-inch chuck on them. DROs. They are power feeds. And the maximum RPM on those is 2,000 RPM. That the students use these to work on their senior design project, turning round parts and we do have a machining class for engineers. So they learn how to use the equipment properly. And they are given strict instructions on safety protocols. All of our equipment in the lab is locked out unless a student is using it. And and the department chair are the only ones that have keys to unlock the equipment. So students need to contact us in order to be able to get in the lab here. On the back side of the lathes over on the south wall, we have a cabinet. And inside this cabinet is our accessories for our lathes and toolboxes. And we also have soldering supplies in here, and they do the soldering for circuits inside this lab also. Over on this table here, is where they'll do the soldering for the circuits lab, so they'll put a mat on there, solder in here, and we actually have a vent hood we pull over while they're soldering to extract the fumes in the area. As we move through the lab here, we have a new plasma table here, CNC plasma table. So we have air, and we've got signage for ARC. Students create projects for their senior design here, so brackets and such, or sheet metal that needs to be bent up here. And we've kind of wrapped it in weld curtains to eliminate people seeing an arc. And right behind the plasma table here is kind of the welding area. So it's our fabrication area. We have a Miller welder that can do MIG, TIG, and stick. They have a fixture table here for welding on. Vise, we do have a pedestal grinder here that we pull and use at point of use, mainly for grinding tungsten carbide for the TIG. And it's not used very often. Demonstrate proper safety techniques. This is the vent hood that we use for soldering and collecting weld smoke and grinding dust when we're using hand grinders or the belt sander and such. Inside this cabinet are, along the side here, are our welding hoods. We only have one welder, but we've got 4 welding hoods here. And then in the cabinet here, we have some other stoves here for materials that are used in the lab. We set these on the welding table, and we've got welding gloves and other supplies in here. On the other side of the cabinet, we have full face shields here for when they're using hand grinders or anything that's going to create more of a particles that could come into their face. What's that? Fire extinguisher. Oh, yes, we have another fire extinguisher on this side of the lab, and that was just put in place here September 21. And then here we have our brake press shear combo. It is a manual press, and all the safety information and the operator's manuals are in that file cabinet. We come around here, we have our bolt and saw for cutting materials for projects that the students design up. And then back here in the corner, we also have our belt sander, disc sander, a little bit of storage for flat sheet metal, some plywood that's accessible. We also have a hoist that's movable that will lift 2 tons for like our Baja, which we have sitting on sawhorses at this point, just for storage right now until they decide if they're working on that for their senior design. Again, we also have, in here we have a tube bender. The tube bender was used for bending tubing to create the structure for the Baja car. And we have a 1-inch die there. And then coming down the center of the lab, we have a work table that's accessible both to the mills and the lathes. And we have 3 Kent manual mills for drilling, milling, tapping, anything that's used to create parts that the students are going to need to be used. We use it in our engineering for machining class, where the students are going to build an air engine for the project there. Again, the students are taught correct safety procedures and everything when utilizing this equipment. Okay. Then we come down, and we'll go to the north side of the lab, northeast actually. Here we have our CNC mill, a Haas mini mill, 3-axis with tool changers. So we'll utilize this to create more complex parts. The working volume's 18 by 12 by 16 for working envelope. And our workstation here, our tooling, is located right there. And then over on this on the north side of the lab, we have an inspection station with a digital height gauge, and is for open setup inspection or layout there. Up here we have our electrical panel, so we have access to that, and our air line shutoff back in the corner here with a power shutoff to the compressor. We also have an area for students to store their clothing when they come into the lab.